I am Peter Hartin and I'm a lecturer in the College of Healthcare Sciences in the discipline of nursing, midwifery and nutrition. My specialist teaching areas include medical and surgical nursing and the transition from student nurse to registered nurse. I am responsible for the final year clinical capstone subject, which is delivered in the last semester of the 3-year Bachelor of Nursing Science course. The subject has about 240 students enrolled across 4 campuses: Townsville, Cairns, Mackay and Mount Isa. The subject is delivered through traditional didactic techniques and supported by an extensive program of workshops through the use of problem-based learning and different types of simulation experiences. This then prepares the student to undertake 240 hours of professional experience before returning for a 1-week intensive block where we pull together the major themes of the subject and student written and practical assessments are undertaken. The lectures are mainly delivered from Townsville by video conferencing to Cairns, Mackay and Mount Isa. A major issue highlighted in the subject was that video conferencing was being used ineffectively in engaging students and delivering content in a way that promoted real knowledge acquisition. I was lucky enough to be supported to take part in trialling some interventions in an OLT project, the Coalface, to help address some of the challenges of teaching a large cohort across multiple campuses. Many of the strategies involved concentrating on how I presented myself in class and how I used the technology and the camera. It also involved training and supporting the students in how to engage in a video-linked class, especially those on the remote sites. Firstly, I try to build rapport with students before each lecture. I display photos of the work students have been doing each week at each site. This recognises the students' effort and reminds students of their own learning accomplishments in the past week, and it ties the group together as a stronger cohort and personalises the event for those in attendance. To maintain student engagement, it was also important to clearly identify critical elements of each lecture and then use those as the structure of the revised lesson plan for each video conference lecture. After identifying the most critical content elements of each lecture, teaching slots no longer than 20 minutes duration were created within the lecture, each with an associated activity. A variety of activities used include case studies, group discussions, brainstorming, and using the document camera to create live content jointly with the students as active participants. This reduced the one-way information flow, engaged the students in authentic activities that targeted the main element of the session, and kept them engaged with the learning process. Another challenge was that question time over the video conference medium was not effective or productive. Even when we used audience microphones and tried to actively engage students on remote sites, the process was slow and only a few students actually participated. The development of a more effective feedback and follow-up process was needed. So the first thing I did was remove question time from the lecture. It didn't work well and the time was too valuable. Instead, I now use this time to introduce more varied learning activities. Moving questions out of the lecture gave me the opportunity to encourage active learning outside the classroom, and in this case, it continues online. To do this, I use weekly online discussion boards where students pose questions, and this encourages responses from both the coordinator and peers. Student-generated answers are often the most powerful to their peers, and my responsibility is then to point students to relevant resources or endorse answers and responses generated by students' peers. To make strategic use of the discussion board, I bring the learning in the online and the classroom environments together by discussing the most critical and interesting questions from the online discussion boards during the following week's lectures before we start a new topic. A really useful guide was produced from the Coalface project and can be downloaded from the website www.coalface.org.au. These teaching strategies that I mentioned have had really positive feedback from students both in the teaching and subject surveys available online, and also from the survey conducted by the Coalface project was really positive. It also provided some live feedback because lecture participation really increased over the duration of the semester. And comparing lecture attendance over the years, this year there was an increase.